cool. We've got a great matchup coming up right now, but arguably two of the best players in the region and in Grandmasters. We have Shaxy versus Surrender that we're going to be moving on to. And I'm excited. I don't know quite yet what the bans are, but I just want to see Druid played. I've been playing Shaxy's Mali Druid, and it is the sickest deck. When you can go Mali, and then Moonfire 5 to 6 times for lethal,
yeah.
It's
feels
perfect
pretty good
against a warrior that's armored up, and they're like, oh, I'm safe. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Boom. Dead. I love that deck so much.
Yeah, I think it can be very, very fun to play. We have seen pretty consistently seen the Druid being banned away, I think, which makes sense because similarly to the Warrior, Druid is in an interesting spot where I find it struggles against the Mage a lot of the time because it can't kill off their big minions, and it struggles to go aggressively enough to close out the game.
It's playable.
But it's pretty good against a lot of the other mid-rangey decks because of how strong it gets once it hits turn 5. And for Shaxy here, we're seeing it's fine. Surrender does not care about having that Druid in play. I think in no small part due to the fact that he has that Priest there, which is such a strong matchup against the Druid.
Yeah, it's very funky, that matchup. I've hit it a few times just this morning when I was playing.
Yeah.
It's very much like, please Wrath, please Wrath.
Yeah.
It's definitely a matchup where you don't pass every turn for the quest to hover the mana, because you actually just need to use any and all removal to kill off the minions as quick as possible. It's definitely tough, but I believe for game number 1, we have the 2 shield classes going against each other, and it's going to be basically the meta matchup, Warrior versus Mage, going to be played out here. And what do you think about this matchup, Derek? Because I'm probably going against it a little bit here, but I do have bad time for Mage.
Yeah.
I felt like people, oh, Mage just beats Warrior.
Yeah.
And I feel like it isn't that straightforward. And maybe that's just my personal experience, but I feel like Warrior's got some decent game, and it is reliant on just getting the mechs pumping, and say, for example, the Super Collider being around early on to just negate anything too crazy happening. But I feel like it's not as one-sided as people make it out to be.
I agree. I think some of the mythos around this matchup that evolved during Masters Tour Seoul was due in no small part to Specialist, where the Mage, when you go to secondary decks, I think the Mage becomes significantly more powerful in the matchup than the Warrior does, because the Warrior can put in, I don't know, BGH, maybe another Plague of Wrath. The Mage can put in, you know, Barista Lynchen, you can even put in Hexlord Malacrass, like all these super beefy minions in your deck that provide ridiculous amounts of value. There are even some players going Youthful Brewmaster and Barista Lynchen to infinitely loop them over and over again.
Stuff,
You can get very, very silly if the Warrior gives you the time, whereas now we are in Conquest with a shield phase. You do not have these secondary and tertiary decks. This is the only build of Mage that Surrender is able to play, and as we saw there, it's a pretty light version of the deck. I believe he's running no Barista Lynchen, which feels definitely not core, but slightly more fashionable at the moment with APX Void's list doing very well. And outside of that, the top end is a little bit stripped down.
It is. There is the Siamat and the Antonidas in there, so there's potential. But I feel like, especially the Antonidas, is so reliant, especially against Warrior, on having the Luna's Pocket Galaxy active, because otherwise you just, you get a Fireball or 2 versus Warrior. The deck doesn't run Sorcerer's Apprentices. It's not Cyclone Mage, where you can say, okay, you know, Archmage, Antonidas, Apprentice, and then a ton of cheap spells like the deck used to be able to do, or still can do, I guess.
Yeah.
So you can't really generate tons without Luna's being active. So I think the matchup is looking a little bit close. Both players have shown how good they are at execution as well. Shaxy especially in some very strange decks, in some strange situations. We've seen him pull off some wins that I just didn't even understand how he got to the conclusion of the approach to the matchup. But, you know, both players very, very strong going to game number 1, and both players also 0-1 down, which is shocking. Surrender already qualified for the global finals, but doesn't mean he's going to make it to Season 3.
Yeah, it does not necessarily mean that. That's a good point to bring up, is that Surrender, PNC, and Fino all could potentially drop out with the relegation in Season 2 of Grandmasters, but still go on and play at BlizzCon in the global finals, which is pretty funny to think about. But yeah, with Surrender taking an unexpected loss, I would say at least, to Samuel Tsao yesterday, our current reigning champion, I suppose you could call it, for APAC Grandmasters, is down on a bit of a rough start, but I think could very possibly pull this one back, because while we've said it's a bit of a light list of Reno Mage, it's not the ideal version to take down Warriors, I still like his chances quite a lot.
Shaxy has a pretty solid opening though. 1 drop into 2 drop into 1 drop that pulls then, you know, Rush, which is probably going to be the 4 drop mummy. And if not, he's covered his base, he's got a 4 drop anyway.
Surrender's curve for Reno Mage, however, is really not all too bad. 4-drop into 4-drop is okay. He'll have a Giant, I think, to follow up on turn 6 at least. It's pretty good.
The frustration is what these minions do between now and then, isn't it? Because there's the Flunky and the Rover just kind of churning and chipping away in damage, and outside of the Cartuck Defender and, you know, of course, Ziliax, Mage doesn't really have any heal potential. It feels like the rogue of the game right now. It just can't really heal, which means, as we saw in the previous game, if you push Mage enough, you need very little to actually end the game.
Which I'm glad. I think Mage needs a strong weakness at the moment. I'm glad that it's healing and
strong weakness.
A large weakness, I suppose I should say.
It's just a funny phrasing, that's all.
Yeah. Funny haha, or funny you don't speak so good.
Haha.
Haha, I'll take that. Pretty crazy that this one single minion played here can very easily contest everything on the board currently for Shaxy with Surrender's Twilight Drake. Obviously that won't be the case with Restless Mummy coming down.
Or
able
Shield
to
Slam?
clear up or Shield Slam, you know, yeah, whatever you want to go for.
I think I like Shield Block, Shield Slam here.
Seems good to me.
You've got to, I always think with this combo is it ever going to get better? And in this matchup, I don't think so. Just straight up killing a Twilight Drake, you still have the Mummy for next turn.
Yeah, I like that too. Allows you to push all these minions' face as well, which is, you know, not insignificant again. And this is often the situation that Mage is going to end up in when it does not have Luna's Pocket Galaxy. You cannot go with these stupidly powerful turns where you cheat out a ridiculous amount of mana and draw your whole deck. You got to do it the old-fashioned way where you pay the actual mana cost for your minions. Imagine that.
No discounts. What do you, honestly, what do you think the future of Mage is going to be post-nerf?
I'm very interested to see, because I think we're definitely not going to see it reverting back to Cyclone Mage.
Okay.
I think the nerf to Conjurer's Calling in particular is a drastic nerf to the...
For that deck specifically.
To Mana Cyclone Mage, yes. Like, towards the end of the expansion, people were going for game plans that didn't revolve around Giant and Conjurer's Calling quite so much. It's still the best thing the deck can do, pretty much. Outside of the absolute dream Sorcerer's Apprentice turns, generally, Giant Conjurer's Calling is the best thing you can do, and delaying that by a turn is a huge deal against some of the aggro decks. So I think what most likely happens is it sticks on Reno Mage for the moment, and it's just a bit less strong.
Okay.
Or it drops down to tier 2, also very possible, and drops out of playability. I'd be excited to see that. I'd be very interested to see. Because it could just be that there's a build of Reno Mage that relies less on big minions and lowers the curve a little bit, shores up its matchup against aggro.
Funnily enough, I saw the opposite, kind of I can't remember who it was, so I feel bad now, but there was a list that was tweeted to hit High Legend that actually took away the big spells from the deck and beefed up the anti-aggro and just had the big minions at the end game, because you still have big minions to reduce with Lunas, right? For then. So it's just an interesting point that you can use more early game stuff and then not run quite as heavy a late game as you said.
It also makes your Stargazer Luna turns better after you have Luna's Pocket Galaxy down.
Right, exactly. You don't whiff on big spells like Flame Strike, for example.
Exactly.
But so far, this game progressing pretty much the way we imagined. Is why we've kind of just been, you know, just imagining,
theorizing,
discussing life.
Waxing lyrical.
The Cartuck Defender is down now, and Shaxy's choosing what he wants to do to respond. But honestly, this looks like it lines up, pretty well. We're just Dynamatic, just trade in, kill that, use the Rover to ping one off, push another 3. So the 3 pushed is kind of negating the second 3 anyway. So Shaxy's still, I would say, keeping Surrender under a reasonable amount of pressure.
Yeah, I think it's less the pressure. It's more just making sure that the Mage can't do anything disgusting early on, which means that it gives Shaxy more time to find Dr. Boom, and also just delay the game until later on, in order to obviously find his removal pieces for when Surrender eventually does make some kind of a big tempo play.
Very interestingly now, there's a weird game plan that might be a bit too risky of Flame Strike into Assume the Boom, and then you can go Archmage Antonius into Magic Trick, and then see if there's a response from the Boom. It's a little bit risky, but a lot of the stuff onto this turn exactly outside of Flame Strike, even though I don't really enjoy Flame Strike, does feel weak. It's like just Giant onto a board that can almost certainly kill it.
Yeah,
You know,
everything else feels very bad.
I guess maybe Giant Ray of Frost to say, well, now you've only got 3 damage available, but
the one saving grace for going Giant is, you know, if you assume the boom, as you put it, playing the Giant means he can't do that and clear it off on the same turn, which means you are maybe predicting that you can disrupt their turn. I think if he had a stronger read on Dr. Boom, he could get there. Like if there was a card kept at the start that hadn't been played until this point, then, you know, you can make the read that they might have it. In this instance, he has no read that it's there. And I think Shaxy could quite happily divert from Dr. Boom for a turn, play it the turn after anyway to kill the Giant.
For I like killing a Giant, yeah.
Exactly. So I like this from Surrender.
Okay, so Shaxy finally uses the taunt that he got available to him, and mainly just as filler more than anything, right? It was just a pass-over turn. So he does get it down now, and it's all about what Surrender really wants to do. He does have 8 mana, so he could go for the Santinidas. Doesn't feel that great, though.
Yeah.
But with the Giant, again, just playing Giant into the minion is just a little bit rough when you can't do anything else with it.
I think it's fine for the moment, because both players, what they're really just trying to do is buy themselves time until they can do their powerful thing, whatever that may be. You know, Giant minion plus Conjurer's Calling, find Luna's Pocket Galaxy, go for a big Antonidas turn. Whereas obviously for Shaxy, it's lockdown board, find Dr. Boom. And so I think for Surrender, even if this dies here, which he's fully expecting it to, it's not that bad. Still just choose through some resources from Shaxy.
And now actually almost certainly will stop the Boom coming down.
Yeah, I think it will.
But then again, Shaxy can just play Boom next turn, have the hero power without using the coin anyway, so I think both players are probably reasonably happy.
Imagine next week if this happened, we'd be saying, and Shaxy drew the Boom the turn before he needed to play it, the perfect draw.
Coin it out.
He can coin out Boom.
I'm looking forward to seeing how much of an impact Boom makes, because I think a lot of players have just jumped straight on, it's not enough.
Yeah.
It's just 2 mana, not enough. But 2 whole turns of Hearthstone is a reasonably long time.
Yeah.
You know, it is, and the fact that it's 9 mana, which means you're almost always Boom pass. It's pretty long. It's almost 3 freedom turns before the really oppressive stuff happens with the Russian mechs. So I'm genuinely interested to just see how much of a difference it makes.
I think it takes some interesting analysis into what Dr. Boom actually does in all the different matchups, because against aggro, you know, obviously you can't play it 2 turns later, and you feel that the most against aggro decks. But Dr. Boom isn't even the best thing you can do a lot of the time against aggro decks. It just locks out the game at the end. The powerhouse stuff you're doing against aggro is Warpath, Dynamatic, Ziliax, Devastator, all the 1-drops you're playing, Restless Mummy. Like, there's so much strong stuff you have against aggro. It's ridiculous. So I don't think not playing Dr. Boom for 2 turns makes that anywhere close to unfavorable against the aggro decks. I think it's more against the mirror and maybe the, I don't know, the mages where you'd feel it a bit more. But even then, if you have more time to play it because they're being less aggressive, it's less of a downside anyway. So.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the query of whether it becomes an Elysiana-style danger turn. You have to find a spot to play it where you don't just get punched because it's 9 mana pass, right? A lot of the time. So outside of exactly on turn 10 with Shield Slams, but that's turn 10, you have to find that turn to just play it and do nothing else. And a lot of the time we've seen with Elysiana, you can't afford to. Oh, this is one of the issues I found with this matchup, is because you're not running 2-ofs, the beef in the deck just doesn't feel like it's always there consistently enough. And yes, Pocket Galaxy stuff, fantastic. You know, yes, that happens everywhere. But when you don't, or when you either Pocket Galaxy and don't get the minion draws early enough, it does feel a little bit underwhelming. Like, look at his hand. It's not doing much. A Giant's already been played, so it's not like Surrender's drawn nothing. The only thing Surrender's really missed is Pocket Galaxy. And a Conjurers, I suppose.
I mean, this is very clearly not a build for Warrior of the deck. This is, I think even by ladder standards, I would call this a light version of the deck. I like having the Barista in there, just, you know, a little bit of something extra. But, you know, to be fair, Surrender hasn't found a lot of the good cards. As soon as he finds Zephyrus, that's a Tyrion. He can just slam down. That's another threat.
Oh, yeah.
In combination with Antonidas, giving him, I would say, probably minimum 3 fireballs. And the Pyroblast he now has at the top end of his deck off of the Volpera Scoundrel. This is a lot of burst. This is starting to become a plan that I think could come together, especially now that we see the Alexstrasza. Still might be difficult. It's a lot of armor to work through, but there's a plan now at least.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Shaxy going to pass. Had the option to weapons project to try and mess with, you know, either kill off the Ziliax, but there's a fear that that's potentially. Has he tested for counterspell? He's not, right?
Don't believe
I don't think he's tested for counterspell, but still, he probably just doesn't want to give Surrender the weapon, give him more armor right now, while he can't really cash in on the effect.
And also, he would potentially want to keep playing around splitting image as well, which was pretty bad. So yeah, I can understand leaving it there. Surrender now is to think, how do I sequence out this game plan, especially including what my potential draws are. I'm looking very potentially at just Alexstrasza on this turn to push a bit of damage to face, and set up for Antonidas on one of the following turns. But he may also want to take the initiative while he has a Ziliax in play to maybe try and sneak in Antonidas surviving.
I think I like that, because the Alexstrasza doesn't matter whether it's now or in 3 turns. A lot of when you play Alexstrasza in this matchup, after the armor is so high, is often more about when you can play it, you know, when you can fit it in.
Okay.
It's not something you have to rush, whereas this is just a relatively safe turn, and I think, as you said, it's more maybe he can't kill it because there's also something else, and there's a secret he has to consider as well. So this feels like the trickiest turn to be able to get this Antonidas off, and maybe it lives. And if it lives, that is insane. If it doesn't live, well, 4 fireballs because he's got 0 cost.
Exactly.
So it's still pretty good.
This is now coming together as quite a significant amount of damage, with the 24 in hand from Fireballs, 34 from the Pyroblast. That's another 15 from the Alexstrasza. It's like 49 damage.
Okay,
Which is not
Spicy.
quite there as it currently stands, but getting a lot closer. And Shaxy, of course, has some armor gain abilities off of Weapons Project, and hopefully for his sake, Blast Shields. But I would say this is looking like a pretty even game as it currently stands. Both players with real avenues for victory. Snip Snap as well. Could be
that's
used
just
for
a lot more damage
triple
this turn,
magnetization, push it all face.
I think I like it, you know.
Do it while you can.
Because you also, it's the same thing about Alexstrasza I mentioned, is he doesn't need to play Alexstrasza first. So just chip all this armor away,
I like
and
it
slam
too.
an Alex. Especially next turn, you're quite likely to be able to safely do Alexstrasza if you triple Snip Snap, because you have all the little tokens to either A, Shaxy deals with them, but if he doesn't, you can use them to trade off as well, make your turn a little bit safer.
You can see Surrender wince somewhat there as well, as we see Blast Shield coming for effectively the 2nd time in a row, with the 1 gap in between that you need on all the Dr. Boom hero powers, which is pretty sad for him. That does raise that threshold quite significantly in order of being able to deliver lethal.
It's a nice hit, though, wow.
Yeah, 9 damage. So big hit. So we're now looking at, after the Alexstrasza hit, needing, what was that, 27 damage and then 34, which is exactly what he would need with the Fireballs and the Pyroblast, but of course with Shield Block and the Weapons Project as well, things very quickly slip out of range again. Ooh, especially with the Scrap Hound, that's a nice pickup.
Not the most, yeah, I guess.
I've got to be honest, I'm more distracted by what Shaxy's doing with his face. He's like pulling on his lips.
Now you've distracted me. I didn't even notice. I was looking at the hand.
Yeah.
I can't unsee this now. So the tokens do get cleaned up, but it's leaving Shaxy's minions just on 1 health. So at least one can be pinged off next turn if Surrender so chooses.
Now there is a real fork in the road for Surrender's game plan. We've highlighted very clearly, and he's made it very obvious what his game plan is. Just look at how orange his hand at the moment, and that should tell you pretty much everything you need to know.
Imagine just oranges there, like.
Hello.
He's got to spam the fireballs. I did wonder whether he was going to Blizzard and then fireball.
Yeah.
And then work it in. He does miss a ping, but he also doesn't take 3 extra damage. But not the end of the world. The only thing I'd be worried about by this play is Magnetize. Would scare me a little bit.
I mean, you are very, very scared with this game plan. But
Gotta do something.
he's got to do something. He can, of course, find Yogg. Oh, no, wait, he's not even playing... He's not playing Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron. What is this deck?
He is, there you go.
Next best thing, Zephyrus being found just in time to get the Black Knight, I guess, if he wants to swing board.
Well, Twisted Nether.
Twisting Nether,
Probably
yeah.
more likely, right?
Well, I mean, Black Knight ping, it's, you know, gets the board, I guess, in his favor, but you're probably right. But does he even want to go for that? Because the problem with Zephyrus is he's smart, but I don't think he's smart enough to realize that you're trying to go for a burn plan. Like, he won't offer burst damage here.
I think Surrender should play Alex.
Really?
My issue is if he doesn't play it this turn, will he ever get to play it?
Okay.
I'm going to say no. And
Well,
if he doesn't play it, then he's just minus 15 damage, which I feel like he needs.
I guess the thing is with Zephyrus is even though right now it won't offer burst damage, if he can go Alexstrasza, Pyroblast, double Fireball, then Zephyrus,
Yeah, into
maybe it will
Twisted
offer
Nether
a
if he needs
Pyroblast.
it, and then wipe the board.
Well,
Then you've
I'm-
got more time to burst, or you get more burst, yeah.
Right, exactly. I'm saying maybe he can induce Zephyrus into giving him the Fireball or Pyroblast he needs.
See, I like this. If Surrender doesn't play Alex this turn, he's not playing for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely unlikely, if not maybe impossible, that he dies this turn. I guess if he got double War Gear or something, which I don't think he can have because he's only played one
Omega Assembly.
That's the word I was looking for. So yeah, I think it's as safe as it's ever going to happen.
I thought this was your motion and twirling of the finger like a helicopter.
That was the factory making the robots.
Oh, right, of course. I should have realized.
Obviously.
Scrap Hound here coming in hot for 2 armor gain, which may seem insignificant, but it starts to add up. And Shaxy, I think, here is having great recognition of where he's at in this game plan, which is he is trying to kill me very, very quickly. Let's stop that.
And this is where it'll start to get just a little bit spicy, won't it? Because there's Blizzard, there's Nova, as well as Fireballs every other turn. So, Surrender even got any spells he can cast apart from Pocket Galaxy, which he definitely does not care about.
Probably not.
I think he's not got any, right? Oh, Power of Creation.
Power of Creation, Flame Strike has been played.
Flame Strike. Yeah, and it doesn't cut the
Blizzard's
mustard
there.
anyway, does it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's got any... Oh,
I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of cheap ones, like Frostbolt hasn't been played, I don't think. Or
Conjurers into...
maybe
Conjurers get
AI.
played?
I can't remember at
No,
this
it didn't.
point. I don't think so. But it's not good, because Conjurers can obviously target opposing minions as well.
Well, is there some 2-drops on the board that you can...
Going for Doomsayer, yeah. Oh, there aren't any. I was going to say I'd give you £1 million if that happens, but I actually will now. In before he goes Zephyrus and then Pilgrim and gets Doomsayer.
So what if he does like... It's all about working... Can this Zephyrus unlock the game?
I don't think
And I'm trying to work out if he can like Nova Fireball ping, and then Zephyrus Nova Fireball maybe if he gets it. I don't know, but the good thing here is he puts himself 1 away from
just
lethal.
1 damage off dying.
But 1 damage may as well be $1 million, right?
Not if we get Snap Rocket.
Or the Missile Launcher.
Or Missile Launcher, yep, that'll do it too.
Is Missile Launcher going to be the terror of today? No.
Not quite, but it does just mean a single minion left unfrozen would be enough to close out the game. Or, of course, a roll of Kaboom next turn.
What if he Weapons Project? Is that ever a thing?
Why would he?
Because I guess you can always do it like
It deals 6 damage, right, and it gives 6 armor.
Yeah, but I just mean the more he's got to just at least have a small part in his mind if he gets frozen again, he might
right.
die.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so
I think he can play that as a
yeah,
last
that's what I
resort.
mean. He can play that later. Yeah, I was just looking at his hand and working out what's going on. Oh,
Frostbolt's more burn damage.
Okay.
We are looking at Frost Nova, Fireball, Ping, Face. 23 health as it currently stands. Fireball Ping is 7, which brings him down to 16.
Does he ever need to Frostbolt instead? He does lose the ping, but it's like...
So that would deal 9 damage.
Fireball,
brings down to 14.
Nova, Frostbolt, Zephyrus, Twisting, Pyro, and then something else. I don't know. I'm lost.
Maybe,
this is hard. I'm just thinking of, do you have those slots of mana and those turns to actually play all of these cards?
Honestly, we might be getting like to the point where Tortollan Pilgrim needs to get double Reckless Rocketeer off of Power of Creation. Like something like that might need to happen.
It's not the worst outcome in the world, is it?
We could just see Zephyrus on this turn, though. You know.
I guess maybe this turn you could Zephyrus Twisting.
Yeah.
The only problem is, though, every turn Shaxy has 2 hero powers that just win him the game.
Yeah. And another that effectively wins him the game with Last Shield.
Sure, yeah. The offerings. Twisting Blizzard. Nova. Twisting makes sense to me.
He could have... Should he have gone Frost Nova again? So he could have gone, like, Frost Nova, Frostbolt, Ping on this turn, and then Frost Nova, Fireball, Ping again next turn. And then Pyroblast? I don't think that would have been enough to get him there. Quite. Because he doesn't have the mana to play like Pyroblast and Frost Nova on the same turn, of course.
Voodoo Doll. I think more there for the mirror matches than a warrior matchup.
Yeah, and I think with the Kaboom hero power being rolled there for Shaxy,
here we go.
Tortollan Pilgrim is the last vestige of hope here for Surrender. And Power of Creation.
No.
Dynamo is not good enough here. And despite Shaxy pulling on his face there, it looks like Surrender is the one with the long face.
I didn't think you were going there with that joke, but okay, that's pretty funny. Caught me off guard. But no, Shaxy is taking the first win. The warrior continuing to just feel like it's the deck to bring and to shield
100%
as well in this format. Still early, but at least those are our initial conclusions. That was just game number 1 between Shaxy and Surrender, though. We've got game number 2 coming up just after a short break. We'll be right back.
Welcome, recruits. I'm Alec Dawson, and today I'm here to teach you what it takes to be part of the League of Explorers. We need all the help we can get, because it's time to save Old Doom. First things first. Being an explorer can be dangerous. The League of Evil has already stolen Dalaran, but now they're unleashing plagues in Old Doom, and they keep shuffling bombs into our decks. Luckily, Old Doom is stocked with ancient treasures that may give us a chance. We've already sent some of our best explorers to retrieve these powerful artifacts, but we need you to go out into the field too. Here's your quest: raid the Sky Temple. That may seem like a lot of spells, but you'll get there faster than you think. Once we complete our quest, we'll get the hero power Ascendant Scroll, which adds a Mage spell to our hand and reduces the cost by 2. Ascendant Scroll allows us to load up on cheap spells for cards like Archmage and Tinnitus. Because if there's a way to defeat evil, it's fireballs to the face. Make no mistake though, the League of Evil has been leveling up too. Evil was powerful in Dalaran, but now they discovered something even more nefarious: teamwork. Here's Weaponized Wasp, one of Hagatha's new secret weapons. The laser on its head, courtesy of Blastmaster Boo. Weaponized Wasp plays well in aggressive lackey decks that look to take forward control early. In Saviors of Old Doom, expect to see lackey build-arounds in Shaman and Warlock. But don't worry, we also have a secret weapon. Bees! No, really, one of our junior explorers found a bee-controlling device deep in Kartut's tomb. It took us a few days to decipher the instructions, but it's quite the powerful tool. Here they come now, it's bees! A new Druid spell. This efficient removal spell excels in token-based Druid decks. Need some extra pains for Knife Juggler? Bees! Need some extra bodies for Soul of the Forest? Bees! Need anything at all? Bees! All right, that's all we have for today, Explorer. We've got one more training session to go before you'll be ready for the dangers of the desert. So sit tight, and I'll see you out there in Saviors of Uldum.
We're at the halfway point through day number 2 here of the Grandmasters Asia Pacific region. We've got Shaxy versus Surrender. Shaxy currently leading 1-0 with a win with his Warrior, which is seeming to be a consistent theme throughout the weekend so far at least. But now we get what I've been waiting for at least. It's going to be Shaxy on the Druid, which is Maligos Quest Druid, versus Surrender on the Priest. A little bit upsetting because from my experience, Shaxy is going to get crushed by Priest. But
yes,
there's still a chance because there are some removal tools, and if either A, Surrender doesn't get off to the Cleric on 1, X on 2 start, then a couple of turns later, cards along the lines of even like Swipe, even Moonfire is being used a little bit early, but really those Oasis Surges are so good at just saying Priest no, and it can just clear 2 minions off post quest very easily.
Yeah, the Druid, once it hits its stride, once the quest has been completed, really is just a force to be reckoned with, to say the least. But the problem is the removal that they run in the early game, especially when you're not even running a single copy of Bees, as Shax does not appear to be doing, is limited, to say the least. And I think the Priest will take big advantage of that, as we can see here. Not a single card that costs more than 4 mana. This is very much an early game combo-y style of deck. Draws a whole bunch of cards, buffs up 1 minion to impossible to remove sizes, and then the Druid just kind of cries.
Yeah, one of the key things to note, I've been playing a lot of this Druid over the past 24 hours, and although I do not appear to be an expert at all, in this matchup, one of the key interactions is, one, as a Druid, you do not have to skip mana every turn in the early turn. Sometimes you cannot afford to because you'll die. But also, Doomsayer versus the double silence and topsy-turvy from the Priest. Because if they Cleric on 1, you Doomsayer on 2, and they don't have an answer, Priest doesn't have the damage, they have to silence it or topsy it, and that's it. There's 3 cards in the deck that can deal with it. And also, if they have one of those, it's less likely they have the sort of steamroller of the other buff cards as well. So Doomsayer, huge card.
Definitely
Crystal
true.
Merchant, as we get into game number 2 now, fantastic card. It's so sick. And when I was reviewing this card, I said, I love the card. That normally means it's going to be bad, but I feel like it's either going to be insane or it's going to be terrible.
Crystal
and I
Merchant's
feel like
nuts.
it's insane.
Yeah.
And again, just one last note, the double Innovate in the Druid deck means that you use these Innovates as coins. You might see sometimes when Druid is on the coin, they'll go untap potential, coin, pass.
Yeah.
Boom, that's 1 turn quicker than you can normal. And then, for example, on turn 2, like Shaxy could Crystal Merchant Innovate and draw a card, which again is very strong. And on the flip side, Surrender, what he wants to do is, as soon as you make a minion past a certain health total, normally around 5, it is almost immortal. The Druid cannot kill it in any reasonable fashion.
Shaxy are going with the Innovate on turn 1, which I have to be honest, I find quite surprising.
You might want to Doomsayer on 2.
Well, I mean, I think even then, I would look at saving it for then, like go Doomsayer Innovate on turn 2, and then it kind of does the same thing, right? But I guess if he doesn't want to
But
Doomsayer
yeah,
on
what
turn
if he
2?
doesn't play
Yeah.
anything? Then he's a whole turn slower.
I mean, I have to be honest, usually when I'm going first and I have an Innovate on hand, I don't usually go Innovate on turn 1 unless I have Oasis Surger in hand, because the difference in completion means that if you Innovate on turn 1 or use the coin, you complete going into turn 5. And the only real benefit for that is Oasis Surger. It's a huge benefit if you manage to hit it. But, I don't know, I find that a little surprising.
I disagree though as well though, because although that is the perfect opportunity, you get to use cards like Wrath and I'm forgetting the card now. War Druid. I was going to say Warlord. War
Loti.
Druid Loti.
Yeah.
That was Warlord because that's an actual word. But you get to use Warlord.
War
Druid Loti.
Loti.
You know, you get to use just a couple of these other cards
That's fair.
a little bit more flexibly as well. So I like the times when I've not done it, I felt worse.
Yeah.
And
That's definitely a fair
now's
point.
the question. This is the point. Does Shaxy technically sped himself up by 1 turn, so he can technically slow himself down by 1 turn and be neutral as the outcome, but get the Doomsayer down? And it's not a cleric, which means
I think
it's not completely disgusting,
Yeah.
but still, remember I said yesterday, whenever I've not played Doomsayer, I felt bad about certain aggro situations. I don't mind this.
So how does it go wrong if Surrender? So say he didn't play Doomsayer there. The reason why he would save it is if Surrender has Blademaster in his hand alone, that would be enough to kill it, because you go coin Blademaster and then heal on turn 3, and it dies because the Light Warden gets buffed.
Extra arms.
Right, exactly.
Many ways.
I think. Well, I don't think many ways, but I think enough to justify it is the point. And it obviously curves beautifully into the Crystal
and
Merchant
this
as
just,
well.
as you can see now, you do the weird off-curve Druid play where you just minus a mana off the actual mana cost and everything starts to roll very, very nicely. And now Doomsayer number 2 and Wrath available, and also War Druid Loti, one of the few minions that you can contest a potential large minion with, because even without the insane combo effect post-quest of it getting Rush, Taunt, Stealth,
Divine
stats,
Shield, Spell
Poison,
Shield.
everything, you could just play it on turn 4 as a Stealth Poison minion and be like, let's go, because there's not a lot outside of beefy Pyro turns that actually do the damage to kill it off.
So now Surrender in a bit of a difficult position where I guess like the baseline play looks to me to be Blademaster's Circle of Healing, but that's a little bit unoptimistic, I think, as to how good Circle of Healing could be.
What?
So therefore maybe we see Light Warden Tolvir's Circle of Healing?
What about, would you ever Light Warden coin Blademaster Circle of Healing?
I don't think it protects your Light Warden enough, which I think is a pretty important facet. Like the taunt on the Tolvir is pretty good.
But I'm just thinking, well, if they kill your Light Warden, they're probably not killing you full health Blademaster. So that you have,
I mean, they're never
something
killing
to
the Blademaster anyway.
Right.
Yeah, only Doomsayer does that. Or War Druid Loti a turn later.
Sure.
Ooh. A lot of decisions now here for Shaxy.
It's cool, isn't it? I kind of like this because again, there's a choice of double Wrath into hero power clears the board. That's what you want to do versus Priest. But it does slow him down on his quest.
And it doesn't draw a card off of the Crystal Merchant, which is pretty big.
And Wrath also does not draw a card. Post-quest, Wrath is 2 mana, deal 4, draw a card.
Yeah,
it's insane. And this deck, I've also found times you fall over is post-quest and you've not drawn Nourish. Or Wraths.
Yeah.
That's like a problem, because you need cards. You rely on Nourish just drawing your whole deck, and then you just kill your opponent.
So I wonder if from Shaxy, therefore, we see just Wrath to kill off the Tolvir and then pass, because as it currently stands, like he wouldn't even have to attack with the Crystal Merchant. He could just leave it not attack, because that makes it difficult to get a better heal for the Priest.
What about... I wonder what the Doomsayer pass. He's going to show respect. I don't mind this. The longer the game goes on, the better it is for Shaxy. Shaxy still has the board. He's a bit slower, but Surrender, outside of Psychopomp, does not have that many,
I guess.
great follow-ups just off an empty board.
The punish, I suppose you could call it here, does come into effect here for Surrender, though, by not going for the Circle of Healing last turn. All of his minions die off. And again, the upside is it delays Shaxy another turn on the quest, another card draw off of the Crystal Merchant. Things are getting a bit weird here for Surrender.
They are, because, again, as we mentioned earlier, outside of arguably War Druid Loti, Shaxy doesn't even have any minions that really, or anything that benefits from the quest right now. Now the Wrath's gone, so well, okay, it's a bit late, but there's nothing there that needs the quest for right now.
Yep.
This is the spice, though. This is where Surrender's gone, right, okay, you dealt with that, you dealt with this. Can you really deal with this as well?
With this, yeah.
Because right now, the quest would be active normally, and there'd be an Oasis Surge that kills this Acolyte 9 times out of 10.
We could now see from Shaxy War Druid Loti and Crystal Merchant and an Innovate if he wanted to draw 2 cards and set up for killing the Acolyte next turn.
Jewels of the sound.
This does a similar job, though, of saying, you know, you gotta kill this.
Yeah, you hold Innovate, and the good thing is, this is where Surrender's like, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't,
Yeah, I like
basically,
this
because he kills the Doomsayer and leaves 2 minions that are drawing cards every turn.
Yes.
Or he doesn't and wipes his board again. And Priest really only has so much refill. They cannot keep playing like this. But this is a solid hand, though. If he can get rid of this Doomsayer.
So how does he do that? Start
needs to
with the
draw
power
for- yeah, I
shield.
think this is fine.
Even if he misses, he can still attack into one of the other minions.
Oh, okay.
That'll do it. So now we're looking at attack in there. Blade Master Circle of Healing as well, if you want.
Wait. Yeah, did Surrender just mess it up?
How?
Why not just...
Is someone injured?
Okay, this worked out very well because the draw was the Cleric. But
What did he do wrong?
I was just looking at just Divine Spirit on the Acolyte.
Oh. Ah, yeah.
It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't die. The quest isn't active.
Well, he
so-
wanted to play the Blade Master in the Circle of Healing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
this
okay.
time. This just puts more pressure in play. I think I like this. We do now, of course, see Shaxy really praying that he, or really wishing at least, that he had the quest active on this turn to get something rolling. Because outside of that, we're looking at... Well, we could see War Druid Loti on this turn and then Floop next turn as the fully... Oh no, wait, it doesn't become activated Loti. Floop becomes whatever form War Druid Loti
believe
went
so,
into,
yeah.
I think.
I think the Defender is it's called Defender, right?
Anubis
top?
Defender.
Yeah. I think the Defender might get played this turn, draw a card, Shaxy kind of crosses his fingers, and then next turn, though, he could have the buffed double Starfall and the War Druid Loti.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, he's going to do it a little bit differently, though. I didn't know whether saving, just holding off 1 turn, would have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
But finally, Shaxy gets the quest done.
He does, but it may just be that little bit too late. Surrender finally starts his turn with a solid couple of minions in play, and now with the Wild Pyro as well, he can start to pop off.
Extra arms on the Acolyte means there's a clean trade into the Taunt.
That sounds good to me.
And Nerf Set Ritualist is going to...
That sounds good to me too.
Oof.
Yeah. I mean, there's even alternate ways you could do it. We could see Wild Pyro, Divine Spirit, and then trade in the... with the 1 damage, trade in the injured Blade Master into the Defender, and then Divine Spirit your Acolyte as well, which makes it nigh on unkillable.
The end begins.
Is the lights near?
Surrender here doesn't actually want to draw all too many cards at all.
I feel that's a strange one. What was he hoping to res that makes a difference, or do you just want to go wide?
Well, what this does do is it means that there are 2 minions in play at 6 health, which is a pretty big difference when you compare Oasis Surger, which he'd definitely be afraid of seeing on this turn. But I think, you know, with Divine Spirit, he could have buffed them up even to an even higher
Right.
life total, at which point they would have been even less susceptible.
What to do?
Yeah, 'cause
But he's still in a good spot.
one thing you do feel when you're playing post-quest with this Druid is you feel the no extra 1 damage from hero power. It
You
doesn't
do,
sound like a
yeah.
lot, but the extra breakpoints really do help,
Yeah.
and then they're gone now. So you are pretty much just straight up, your cards are your cards, and that's what you do. Oh, that is good to pick up though.
So what are we looking at now? War Druid Loti could be used to kill off the Acolyte for just 1 card,
Power takes
which seems like a pretty good way to try and shut down a lot of what the Priest is doing.
And it lives.
Yeah.
Time waits for no one.
This is, again, another one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to see a more aggressive Acolyte draw approach last time from Surrender to capitalize off the fact that he had the Acolyte of Pain in play.
I quite like this Wrath as well.
Oh yeah, of course, gets the spell damage.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah, 100%. I forgot I had the spell power. As I always seem
Because
to
we
do.
can see that Pyro can clear off this 4-1, but also there's a Psycho Pump on the board,
Yeah.
so that it kind of negates its own effect. So just using that spell damage right now is pretty sick.
So this turn, how much damage are we even looking at here? We could see Amit, Wild Pyromancer, Powered Shield the Psycho Pump, Circle of Healing.
A lot.
That's like 5 times 3, 15 extra damage
I
there.
see a dark
A lot, yeah.
Oh.
Or again, a different line where
Well-
you can make his minions have
that-
18 health.
And that's it. That's immortal in
That
this deck.
that is literally
It's
it.
immortal because Wardred Loti... Well, Wardred Loti's not gone.
Floop War Druid Loti can come down, which gets all the
You play
forms,
it, you
so
play
it dies.
as well.
Yeah.
But there's a 118...
Oh yeah, I forgot with the
you can kill-
reborn.
you can
Yeah,
kill
that's
both, though.
pretty insane. That's pretty insane.
but you can kill... But the Wardred Loti doesn't die. It's only 2 attack, right?
Right, but you can kill off with some other method, right? Like the Psycho Pump or the Pyromancer.
Oh yeah, I'm saying from Shaxy's point,
Right.
there isn't... You don't assume there are that
Yeah.
many methods to kill it off with.
Yes,
Because if an attack goes in, the thing attacking it dies.
agreed. For Surrender here, the only thing that his Amit dies to is exactly Flute in hand. I think.
Yes. Right now, because there aren't
Yeah.
enough there aren't enough cards to like quad Moonfire or whatever. And Elise hasn't been played, so on, so on, so on. But this is my point, right? Look how different the game would be if they were being Nourish.
Oh,
Like,
unrecognizable.
10 mana,
Yeah.
extra cards, everything goes nutty.
Time waits for no one.
Getting all the benefits of War Druid Loti here means the Amit can die off.
And also with the pump in the pool, Psycho Pump already played. Pump in the pool, that's random. It means that
90s hit.
there's less resurrect to maybe get the Amit back
Yeah.
as well.
So how does Surrender get through this now? Wild Pyromancer plus Circle of Healing obviously has the downside of healing up the War Druid Loti.
Yep. That's what I mean, there aren't actually that many answers to this minion that don't involve this dying.
So Psycho Pump seems like a good start.
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all. Tolvir plus Nephiset Ritualist, I suppose. Could be used to at least block the War Druid Loti from running into the minion. To the Light Warden, sorry.
Okay, does he just heal himself and then trade? Because this
Just
could go,
accept it.
if he leaves that War Druid up, this could go wrong.
How? What
Because
can that
Shaxy
do?
plays double heal. He plays double hidden Oasis. You can Oasis that is Loti and keep trading.
Yeah.
If this Loti kills the 118 and kills something else as well, like this is getting silly.
But the
like,
thing is, with a 6 health Tolvir in play, it becomes very difficult to actually get through the first time. Which
That's true,
means
that's
that
true.
the minion is protected, which is why I like not attacking it.
okay.
I like this player
Okay,
a lot.
okay.
Because even spell power swipe does not quite kill it off. There's no druid, regular druid hero power as well.
So it'd have to be what, Swipe Wrath?
Yeah, or something like that. Or, you know, it could be, of course, the Oasis Surger. But as it currently stands, nothing doing. This hand sucks for Shaxy.
Again, it's no Nourish. It's
No
just
nourish.
such a problem.
Yeah.
I've almost decided to, in most matchups, not certain ones that are
Yeah.
like Rogue, obviously, but like to keep it in an opening hand if I
think that's
have it,
very
because
valid.
you skip it, you're almost skipping the game to turn 5
Yeah.
and 6 anyway, and it is so you gain 2 mana crystals and draw 3 cards. It's insane.
Props to the design team as well, because just imagine if 5 mana Nourish was still in the game.
the game would just break.
Oh my god, that would be so
Just
disgusting.
curve straight into Nourish game.
Yeah.
Very tricky game. From both players' sides, actually. Like, this has not exactly gone smoothly for Surrender.
Yeah.
It's just like just about now he's managed to... And look at Surrender's resources. He's nearly out.
This is just so always the way with how the Priest has played, because I would have played this so differently from Surrender. And looking at the way it's worked out for him, I think a lot of his plays were pretty inspired, like making the big making the big Amit, which of course with the Reborn on the
I like this.
Light Warden worked out very nicely for him.
This is actually sick as well, the Malagos. I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because you play it, there's either the 1 silence that's left in the deck, or it either has to be traded into, and if it doesn't, woomph, swipe.
Yeah. I'm just looking for Surrender. How much damage does he have available? Like Pyro and then Divine Spirit, the Psycho Pomp, and then Circle of Healing would be 7 minions. So 7 times 2, 14 extra damage. Plus a heal. 16 extra damage. It's not lethal quite yet.
Was it 28, I think?
Really?
I think, off the top of my head.
16, 19. Yes, I agree. I agree. Which is no small amount.
And you know what's really tough about Priest? If it isn't lethal and you go all in, you could just lose.
can
If
just
it's not
lose.
lethal, you've got no way to just randomly do damage.
true.
So you need it to either be lethal or you need to secure the board and do it next turn that is lethal. It's very tricky to get this right.
Which is something that's absolutely running through Surrender's head here. And again, I should say, sorry, if he doesn't have lethal, you obviously don't use the Divine Spirit on the Psycho Bomb.
Yeah, you
because
double the health on the big
+2
boy.
attack isn't worth it. You instead go for this play and
kill
get
the
up to a
Malygos.
36 health Light Warden. What an earth.
And this almost certainly is locked to the game out, if not certainly, because not only is Flute gone, War Druid Loti is gone twice, kind of. Malygos is gone. There is nothing now, and Surrender isn't within range of death from, like, as you can see, double swipe Moonfire maybe, or something like that. No Oasis Surges. Most importantly for me, no Nourishes means that Shaxy is just ran dry.
Yeah, swipe here for Surrender. Oh, sorry, for Shaxy. Wouldn't even kill off Surrender's... I wouldn't even kill off the Blade Master. It doesn't even come close, obviously, to the Light Warden, which is the real nightmare. And this is why Druid, I think, is so weak in the matchup. With with Naturalize being rotated through to Wild and Hall of Fame, Druid is just so weak at killing off these large minions. It's got nothing.
Funnily enough, Shaxy does not play Explore something. What's it called? The one
Exploration.
mana, the 1 mana Discovery Choose One card, because Keeper of the Grove would do some work in this matchup,
true.
right?
It's a
You
good
know,
point,
and
yeah.
Shaxy doesn't play any, he plays 0.
Yeah.
And overall, I like the decision to play 0, but just in this matchup,
Really?
it could have changed the game.
I quite like that card. Worthy Expedition.
I've just when I've been playing, I've never felt the need to play it. I
It's
never
just
go,
something to do
I-
on turn 2, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And obviously, afterwards, if you're searching for that Nourish, playing it post-quest to find a Nourish, I think it's a very good card. Surrender here just doing what is pretty much the only thing available to him, and yeah, really won't make too much differences. I think we can finally see Shaxy's out of the game.
He's not dead yet. Technically not dead.
Okay, he's technically not dead.
I mean,
quite
all I
yet.
mean is he's going to continue playing.
Yes.
I mean, he would have to maybe draw some more taunts somehow.
Okay.
Because
Still
something
not
I
over.
also have done with this deck is played the Oasis Surges and just hit my opponent 3
Yeah,
times
yeah.
with them and they die. It's
Right,
like,
that's
it's kind of
definitely
scary.
Yeah, that's what I'd say that's even the main win condition of the deck, more so than Malygos. Right, let's do this one more time, shall we?
What, Shaxy's going to draw a taunt?
Try and end the game. Was
I mean,
that
he's
hidden
got plenty
Oasis?
of taunts. He's got plenty of taunts.
Okay.
He runs 2 Hidden Oasis. There's still 2 Nourish
What?
to draw, and you can Nourish into Hidden Oasis because you get the crystals.
Oh my god.
So he should.
So this is 10 damage face this turn.
So he should heal his minion.
Why?
Oh wait, have both Pyros been played?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind. Because
There's no Holy Ripple.
the health on his own face changes nothing, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Maybe you should just do it anyway if he needs to value trade one of the smaller minions away.
Yeah, I don't. Wait. 2012. If he rips the second one off the top, does the health to face make a difference? Against
Maybe.
14, right?
Well, the problem is it also gives +2 attack to the Light Warden.
That's true. That's
So
true. Yeah,
it's
just heal the
becoming
minion.
very, very close to a one-hit kill.
So now he needs exactly Nourish or another taunt. Well, Surrender needs his one of Silence. He's got 1 left.
That doesn't do it either.
Wait! 10? He needs 6 damage, so he's...
I don't think he has any
he's
draws.
used double swipe.
He has no Discover effect, so he couldn't find the lethal.
So he pretty much needs exactly either Nourish which there's 2 of,
Yeah.
or
Hidden
the,
Oasis.
or the second Oasis.
And he's already played both defenders.
Yes.
Okay.
So he needs one of those 3 cards, and if one of the
Yes.
cards is the Nourish needs to draw the Oasis. And Surrender doesn't draw Silence. But if this is a win,
There's
this
only
is
8
hilarious.
cards left.
That's what I mean. It's likely, right?
It's not that ridiculous.
3 out of 8 give him a chance.
Oh, this is smart from Surrender. This lowers the clock quite drastically.
Oh, that's true.
Slows
that's
it
true.
down.
Solid play.
And I think that's going to be it.
Okay, that's Dream Pal not really going to get the work done, but wow, what a game.
Surprisingly close at the
Yeah.
end there. Almost cheesing out a win there is Shaxy. But Surrender, after a rocky start to the game, finally manages to go all in. One huge minion is just all you need against Druid. It gets the job done because, as we see there, literally no answers in the deck to deal with that. So as soon as Surrender made that big minion,
Yeah.
I think he pretty quickly realized this should be a lockout. If the Amulet doesn't get there, the Light Warden will.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. It's not so much you need one huge minion, you need one huge minion normally twice.
Yeah.
Because the first one is often answered
That's
by
fair.
War Druid Loti. Because as you can see, he drew 0 Nourishes that game, and he still nearly got to the end of his deck, right, pretty quickly. So with Nourishes, you draw your 3 decks so fast. And also, if you get ahead, it doesn't happen often, but you can even like Elise the War Druid Loti and then keep going. But still, it's a pretty cool game. Normally it goes much quicker because the priest does make something big and just ends the game pretty quick.
Yeah. For Shaxy here, though, on, I believe, his Druid yet again, I think he will have himself a bit of a better matchup against pretty much anything in Hearthstone at the moment. I think Druid is in a much better spot
That's
than
the worst
against the
matchup,
Priest. I fully
100%,
agree.
yeah.
Against the Mage, you can run into some of the same problems where you are left with one big minion, like a Giant, for example, or maybe an early minion off of the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, of course. But generally, that's much less consistent than against the Priest.
Yeah, the biggest difference versus Mage, or the benefits as Druid versus Mage, is you often are not scrambling at the start to defend, so you get that turn 5 effect more often than not. And then also, even if they go wide with the board, you have the double Starfall effect, which is insane. And it means that because you're not scrambling, you can just kill Mage with just Malygos, Moonfire, done. So it's much more of a straightforward plan, and because you don't have to be so defensive, you've got time. Like I said, the mulligan can be a little bit more loose as well, and I honestly think I would like to see Shaxy keep a Nourish in the mulligan, if possible.
I wouldn't be surprised. And we know all these decks pretty well at this point, especially the Arena Mage. We've seen a good, fair bit of it. The cards that are kind of interesting in here for Surrender's decks, Voodoo Doll, I think probably won't make too much difference because generally this Druid deck doesn't make singularly large minions so much as just annoying wide boards with the Oasis Surger, and later on, of course, with Hidden Oasis as well. I guess tickle off a Malygos, maybe it could be useful.
I think what more often than not the Voodoo Doll will happen is when the Druid player does the thing where Malygos isn't hit by the petal, the forest, and you just play Malygos to put it onto Floop, and then that first 9-mana Malygos is just killed by the Voodoo Doll because Polymorph is, to me, much more likely to get an earlier play than a Voodoo Doll will. Okay, so full mulligan for Shaxy, and I'd expect the same from Surrender, unless he fancies this Swampoos to put on a bit of aggressive pressure, but I don't think there's a true need for it in this matchup.
I agree. I'd much rather see him search for Zephyrus, Luna's Pocket Galaxy, Reno,
Oh,
the
one of those?
Relicologist. Yeah. A Giant definitely helps as well. Going first rather than on the coin makes it a little bit more awkward, I suppose, because it comes down a lot later, whereas if you're able to go Arcane Intellect into Giant on the coin, it becomes a lot better.
And also, very similar now to Rogues, you don't want your opponent to have the coin, because now, Quest into coin is just the play, and then we'll almost certainly see Shaxy pass this turn, and there's a Nourish. Game on.
Yeah, things are looking pretty good for him. The quest, as it currently stands, is going to be completed heading into turn 5, unless, of course, we see some kind of mana utilization for a complete turn along the way, which is not perfect because Starfall is generally a bit too reactive against Mage. But again, when we head into turn 6, things are going to start getting very spicy.
Surrender now just deciding whether he wants to ping or play this Snip Snap down. It looks like he wants to hold on to the Snip Snap. We can see that Shaxy would probably just Doomsayer into this Snip Snap, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a little surprising to not see the snip snap. I would have thought you just want to kind of get your pressure down.
I think you want to make Druid try and do stuff, or at least take damage early
Yeah.
on.
I guess they have Wrath, they have Doomsayer. There's a couple of things that can come down to answer the snip snap.
It's going to do him anyway, I like it. You want to start this game cleanly on turn 5.
Yeah, you just stop the Drake here, which I like a lot.
Or even the Bone Wraith is a little bit annoying too.
Sure, yeah. Just stopping them from doing anything seems fine. Huh. I wonder if you ever just play that in stealth poisonous form, because
There's no point, right? Next turn you quest
next
active
turn you can do
anyway.
anything.
You
Well,
can get it with
it
Rush.
frees up mana for next turn. So say, for example, you wanted to go Wrath next turn or Starfall next turn, and then Nourish is obviously mana used up, Hidden Oasis the turns after. I think I actually like this.
I think there's only Starfall exactly next turn you'd want, right, that beats this. Because you can still Wrath and War Druid next turn. You don't have to float mana, remember? So
Yeah, it's true. I just think it's going to do a lot of the same job anyway, and it means it opens you up for draws of Crystal Merchant, Oasis Surger, even just like Swipe, something like that.
Yeah, it's very nice. So we can see obviously it lines up extremely well versus this Giant. And I think for the point that Giant is exactly playable on 5 mana this turn, that would sell me enough to play it. The good thing here as well is War Druid Loti does not have 1 turn stealth. It has stealth.
Just hang about
full
as long
stop.
as you need. Yeah, and I think that's definitely what we're going to see from Shaxy.
And if Surrender has to dump a Blizzard into this, then sign me up if you're the Druid, because that is fantastic.
Everything for Shaxy kind of just going according to plan for the moment, with the Giant still pretty much unplayable. So from Surrender, we're probably going to have to see just the Kartut Defender. Maybe now the Arcane Keysmith instead, but it just gives Shaxy all the time in the world.
So honestly, does Surrender ever consider Blizzard? Because this is never getting unstealthed until it kills something juicy. Because Shaxy will just ignore a Kartut Defender as well, I think.
So he's expecting on turn 6 probably Nourish a lot of the time.
I don't know, I'm just saying
Yeah, so you'd have a free board to develop a
Yeah,
Giant
I feel like
into.
that's just sitting waiting for the perfect target. And if that
see
on
your
board
point.
stops you playing cards, then that's doing its even better job.
I think maybe you can try and catch something else in collateral damage of Blizzard on the following turns, like when Shaxy actually starts to develop some minions.
One thing you do have to be aware of if you're going to do any of the more flashy Malygos plays is hand size.
Big time.
Because I don't know if you know this actually, because I don't, and I need to find out. In testing, I feel like Elise does not generate cards in order.
It's random.
Yeah, it's random,
it's
isn't
random,
it? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, because I looked at it, expected it to be in order, and was like, where's my Moonfire
yeah.
card? And then I looked at it again every time I did it and was like, is this completely random, or
Right.
am I missing something? But it is random, so the smaller you make the pool of Elise copies, the more consistent it is if you've got full hand size.
But then that can often be, you're working against yourself there, because obviously if you want smaller hand size, you often don't want to play Nourish. But if you don't play Nourish, you're copying it with Elise, and you'll copy it over and over again because you're never playing it from that point onwards. So playing the Nourish at some point can actually be very important just to get rid of it from your hand, and then you start to dump the other stuff.
Yeah. And also, like, it feels kind of weird to me, that play from Shaxy.
Yeah.
Because, bear in mind, Nourish doesn't just draw. He'll be on 9 mana next turn if he Nourished. He could have Nourished and played the 2-drop, which then keeps empty in his hand. And yes, he wouldn't have drawn a card, but with the Nourish, he doesn't need to anymore.
I agree. I think I would have gone for the Nourish there. Surrender does finally decide this Blizzard's worth it. I've got to start developing something, especially heading into turn 8.
And of course, he could be bothered about Counterspell with the Nourish. We're not completely ignoring the secret, but I think as
true.
play,
Oh, yeah.
But I think as proven right now, well, if it's Counterspell, fine, you've got more stuff, you know.
Well, he tested for Counterspell.
Oh, he did, yeah, he
last turn.
tested, yeah.
So I guess this is reason why, but it's quite simple. Letting Cast Division get to me a little bit there again. Oh, but the hand down for Shaxy really starting to beef up a little bit in terms of what it can do. Oasis Surger,
Oh, yeah.
even just fluked Oasis Surger as well, it's something to consider if you want to go all-out aggression.
Honestly, the amount of times when because I played a bit of Mali Druid before I saw Shaxy's list early on, I was like, kept going, should I just sneak a Savage Roar in this deck? Because often you have like pretty wide boards.
Yeah.
And then I was like, if I just had Savage Roar now, they'd just die. Like, it's insane.
I think a lot of the time if you're going for the Savage Roar builds, you want to kind of focus it away from Malygos.
Oh yeah, I don't think you should play it in this list.
Bees,
Yeah,
Power
yeah,
of the
yeah,
Wild.
yeah. I don't think you should play it in this list, but it's just times
It
where you
feels
sit
good.
there and go,
What to
could be
do?
dead now. It's like, never mind.
Well, that's kind of one of the reasons why I like Worthy Expedition, because you can find Power of the Wild pretty
Sure.
easily and just go for a nice wide board buff.
These next couple of turns are going to be very telling and dictate how Shaxy responds here because of the Floop, Shaxy, and there's no sign of the Florist in sight, Shaxy could just play Malygos and be like, you need Polymorph or Voodoo Doll, and even if you do all that, I have Flooped Malygos into the swipe Moonfire, which is
nice.
a lot of damage. Obviously, it really depends on whether Shaxy can push these minions through. Oh, and Starfall, anyone?
Yeah, Violet Warden definitely helps there to try and put a wall up here to defend from this, but man, Shaxy's just going to kill him. Like, this is too much damage.
And he can just play the Surges anyway.
So it just clears off
and
the
they
board.
live!
Yeah.
They
So disgusting, man.
And he can push, what, 7 damage?
Yeah.
Which is insane, because the burst this deck can do, not quite yet, of course, but the burst it's capable of is 50 plus, if you really want to go deep. Not that he needs it versus Mage, but I'm just saying that the damage is there.
Big time. And so now for Surrender, I think it's a victory for him is mainly going to come in the form of some kind of disgusting Luna's Pocket Galaxy play. Like if he's able to go to Tollum Pilgrim, get the Galaxy, then freeze, play a bunch of small minions, a bunch of cheap big minions. But that just seems like too much mana expenditure right now to even be able to get there.
Yeah, I'd almost be afraid of dying if I was
big time.
Surrender. And again, maybe I'm clouded because I've been playing a lot of it on the Malygos side, but this is scary. Like, so he wasn't. What was he looking for? Flame Strike?
I guess.
Because he's not happy with this outcome. Because he's facing down, what, 17 damage?
Oh, does he ever pick the AI over the Lunas? Like, I think he has to be optimistic to win this game, and Lunas is the optimistic pick. Because then you pick that and pray that you draw, Caligos off the top or something.
He's just
like
dead?
that. Yes, he's just dead.
That's just game. Doesn't even need the Malygos. You could play it anyway with Moonfire, but you can also swipe Moonfire, gets him there.
Yeah.
Insane. And I think, although the deck overall is fun and I think quite powerful, that War Druid Loti was game-winning. The negation of the Giant on curve
such a good play.
was game-winning.
Yeah.
Everything else looked good, don't get me wrong. But that War Druid Loti was just perfect.
I really, really liked that play from him because it was the turn before it was activated from the quest, and it would have worked out similarly had he done it on the next turn anyway, because he could have just rushed it in. But I think with this play, it kind of forced Shaxy to go for other weird ways to spend his mana anyway. Surrender, sorry, yeah. Shaxy's play there to go for the poison, I think, was really inspired, freed up all his mana, and just showed good understanding there, because Shaxy, I think, his real driving force with that Druid was realization that you don't have to complete the quest by turn 5 every single time, or you don't have to get maximum value every time. Like, he spent a lot of his turns with full mana, spent it in the first game of the Druid. Game 2, playing the Loti earlier, he didn't wait for it to be fully activated, because I think that shows really good understanding that it does enough already. If you're winning, you don't need to win harder.
And it's just recognizing matchups and game states where, again, if you said, oh, well, you should always hold the mana to buff the quest as quick as possible, so you don't want to Doomsayer on 2 versus an aggro deck, then, you know, like, of course you do that, but then you can take it a step further and say, well, actually, my hand doesn't have any cards that benefit from the quest being live. I can delay it even more, because the quest isn't something you have to spend mana on, so you're not saying, oh, do I have enough mana to proc the quest next turn at all? But anyway, I'll stop talking about Mali Druid, even though I'm excited about it. We'll move